you could know someone so well, and then as soon as you spend a large amount of time with them, the true that sort of comes out a little bit, and they don't seem as nice and shiny as what you once thought. So Henry soon realised that even though he did kind of enjoy Frida's company, she could be, and get this, childish and demanding.
Well, she's a child.
Exactly. She is a child, so no freaking surprise.
For fuck's sake.
Now, a quick bit of information, though. And Henry apparently never had sex with Frida. Allegedly, she got frisky with him a couple of times, but he actually felt more of a fatherly devotion to her.
Well, isn't he gay?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I think he's kind of bi or something, maybe, because he seems to.
It's Ottis who's
full on gay. Yeah, with this one, I mean, what I could see that Henry had this sort of fatherly devotion to her, but did have some little urges towards her. He sort of struggled between those two urges, between those two different emotions. But again, this is all coming from kind of the horse's mouth. So the horse's mouth. So yeah, take everything with a pinch of salt. At one point, apparently, Frida became really angry with the fact that he didn't actually want to touch her and started calling him gay. So, obviously, in a slur, she wasn't just asking him, dude, you gay? She's probably like, you fucking gay. Not in a Cockney accent.
I was going to say.
You fucking gay. You fucking gay. He denied it and instead chilled her out by promising to buy her some gifts. Obviously, as a child, she was very easily swayed. Yeah. I couldn't actually figure out exactly how old she was. I don't think she's like child, but she's definitely like teen, 16, 17. Yeah. Later that particular night, when Frida was asleep, Henry left the motel and drove to a truck stop where he picked up a woman, and after driving her to an isolated spot, raped her and slit her throat. He then cleaned himself up and was back in the motel before Frida woke up.
Oh my God. So
even though he wasn't interested in... I mean, it sort of goes a bit more into this a bit further down the line. But he only seems to really get off on the sex when it's rape. Yeah. And I don't even want to try and guess the psychology behind that, because I fucking couldn't, really, to be honest with you. There's some things I can sort of guesstimate and think about, but that I just don't have a fucking clue.
I don't have a clue where to start with that, to be fair.
As the trip possessed, I was going to say. As the trip progressed, Henry was finally contacted by Don Materick and was given the job of killing a man in Beaumont, Texas. The target was supposedly a lawyer who was about to give police information regarding the cult. After reaching the town, he left Frida in the motel and tracked down his victim and followed him, waiting for the opportunity to kill. Apparently, just like he'd done in his initiation, he struck up a friendship with the man, lured him to a quiet spot with the promise of booze before doing exactly the same thing and slitting his throat. According to Henry, he slit his throat so deep and so quickly that allegedly the liquor just ran straight out the bottom of his head. So it was literally before the alcohol could go down his throat. He just came out the bottom. It's fucking gross. Switching cars, Henry took the body out of town and dumped it in a shallow grave. He then drove the man's car back to the motel. After picking up Frida, he returned to the burial site and then, with her help, dug up the corpse, decapitated it, and buried the parts separately. Apparently they left some bits of the body on the floor or something like that, so that police would find it and the Don Materick guy would hear about it or something like that.
I just can't even...
Is that the first time we've heard of that Frida being involved in that? I think it might be, right?
Yes.
That's the first time she's involved in anything like that, right? Fuck. After 3 months on the road, Henry and Frida finally reached California. Tired, hungry, and broke. Sorry. I'd put the commas in these notes in a very weird place, so that just made it weird. So they finally reached California, tired, hungry, and broke. is the way I should have gone with that. The money Don Materic had promised him actually never arrived, so he sort of fucked him over, which kind of makes me think, was this cult really this huge, big thing, or was it just some guy
on his own?
Maybe on his own. Maybe he had a couple of little followers, but maybe here, maybe he wanted just some shit done. Maybe he wanted some people to get gone, and so maybe he just saw these as a couple of suckers who we could manipulate into doing his dirty work for him, possibly.
But Ottis was already part of it, right? So,
that was as I said, it's not.
Well, allegedly,
apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know, but again, he could have already been suckering him. No, sucking him. No. He could have already been like. He could have already been like manipulating him in the past.
Yeah.
Anyway, he could have been, and he goes, "Oh, there's another sucker. Let's get this sucker." Maybe, potentially, I don't know. The money that Don Materic promised sent him didn't send. So obviously they had no money, and eventually the truck that they were riding in broke down, and they had to start hitchhiking.
Oh dear.
At this point, Frida herself then realised that life on the road with Henry wasn't what she thought it would be. At this point? Really? Not when he wakes you up in your scabby motel room and asks you to help bury a fucking body? At that point? No? It's only when the truck breaks down, which she's pissed. Okay. She can deal with the body, but... I don't know, strange people. It wasn't, yes, it wasn't what she thought, and she began complaining incessantly, demanding that they return to Florida.
I can see where this is going to go.
Really? They go to Disneyland?
No, I think he's going to kill her.
I don't know. You might be right.
I'm calling that now.
You going to place your bets? €25. 25 euros. To say.
25 yen.
Okay. Well, I don't know why I'm betting with you. I know where this fucking goes. While hitchhiking through a rural district in California, the pair were picked up by a local businessman named Jack Smart, who owned an antique shop in the small township of Hemet. Jack, feeling sorry for Henry and Frida, drove them back to his house and fed them, where Henry told him that him and Frida were man and wife looking for work. Jack, being the nice, lovely man he was, said that he'd be willing to give them a room at his place in exchange for help at his shop and making repairs around the house and just general things, helping.
Yeah.
Doing shit.
Housework and DIY.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah.
And for a time, at least, Henry apparently was a hard worker, so much so that his abilities as a handyman spread around the town, and he ended up actually helping out a few different people around the district. So he was kind of like a nice guy, kind of like, oh, who's that big old log? Check out that big old log. I've got a squeaky floorboard. Where's that big old log? That's what I can imagine. The two were in town for around 4 months, so in totally, and that just makes no sense. Apologies about my notes.
In total.
No, it doesn't even make sense. I write these on a lot of caffeine sometimes, and I get very trigger happy with the keyboard. So yeah, the two were in town for around 4 months, and were actually accepted into the community. And like I said, Henry specifically was held in high regard. However, Henry was known to have taken a number of random day trips alone, which presumed it was in this time he was using for his other sort of
his other hobby.
His other hobby, yes.
Right.
Yes. Mrs. Smart, Jack's wife, whose name I don't actually know, unfortunately, she gets a call from some relatives in Texas telling her that her mum's too old and too ill to look after herself. I had to double check I wrote those notes right. Yeah, she's too old and too ill to look after herself anymore, and she needs some help around her house. Shit going on there. Okay. Mrs. Smart and Jack, her lovely husband, they want to go and help her, but obviously they can't because they've got their own businesses to deal with. So they decide it's a good idea to send Henry and Frida instead. Why don't you go down and take after my ailing old mother?
From an outsider's point of view, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And especially, they've done nothing so far to cause any sort of distrust, maybe. Everything's been fine and dandy so far. The deal is, again, exactly the same. They can live at the house with Mrs. Smart's mother for free, as long as they take care of her and the house. And like I said, why not? They've proven themselves to be upstanding citizens. so far. Henry and Frida take the bus to Ringgold, Texas, where they meet Mrs. Smart's mum, Kate Rich, or Granny Smith, as she was known, and as we will refer to her throughout this story, because I much prefer Granny Rich.
I thought it was Granny Smith.
No, this is Granny Rich. Granny Rich. Granny Smith is the Apples. At first, everything goes perfectly swimmingly. Granny Rich immediately takes to Frida. She loves her. She's all about Frida. Does her hair and everything. She loves her. And Henry cracks on with the work and once again is doing a decent job. It wasn't long, though, before things start to go downhill. Henry actually starts using the money he's given for the groceries for Granny Rich on beer and cigarettes and other random shit that he's not meant to be spending it on. He probably could have got away with it too if it wasn't for that pesky storekeeper. The guy who owned the shop knew Granny Rich personally, and obviously when small towns like that, she's getting her groceries all the time, he knows that she's not wanting fucking brewskis and cigarettes, you know? He's like, Granny Rich doesn't smoke cigarettes. She smokes pure meth, and I don't sell that here. No, she doesn't. She doesn't smoke pure meth. But he knows that something is awry in the Rich household. Yeah. So he's believing that she's being taken advantage of, and decides to call James and Mrs. Smart to let them know. The relatives not really believing it at first, because they're just sort of like, what? No, there's no way this is true. You've got the wrong end of the stick here. Let's see. They decide to drive up for a surprise visit to see their mom, and also just to check things out.
Yeah.
As you would. When they arrived, they found Granny Rich sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by dirt and filth. So she's in fucking squalor. Dishes hadn't been washed for weeks, and the rooms hadn't been cleaned for possibly months. Henry and Frida were found asleep on the couch. That's such an abuse of trust for an old lady.
Really sad. Though,
it is
well.
some like lovely old lady who's been seriously taken advantage of, and these two assholes, and she's just there sat in probably her own shit and piss, and they're not feeding her properly, and it's such a horrible thing for someone to do. I mean, obviously they've done a lot.
A lot worse.
A lot worse things, but this just adds to it. I really want to use the C word so much in this podcast, but I know some people don't like that word. But if it's going to be applicable to anybody, it's these guys. So obviously shit went down as the couple were not happy with the way that Henry and Frida had treated Granny Rich and told them to pretty much get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Still, they were actually kind of nice about it, which just shows the sort of how nice these people were. Henry and Frida, they actually gave them money for the bus fare and drove them into town to wait for the next bus. Which is like, if someone had done that and abused your trust that way and left your fucking mother to live in that way, I wouldn't give them a single freaking penny. I'd be like, no, you've took enough from us, you fucking dicks. Get the fuck out. Find your own way home.
I guess that's the way to make sure that they will actually leave.
Though.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. But I don't know. I would just be like, walk. I'll walk you down. I'll fucking mow you down with the car. That wouldn't help.
Yeah, that wouldn't help.
But I'd feel like mowing them down with the car. So yeah, they had the money for the bus, but instead Henry decided they would keep the money and hitchhike to Wichita Falls with the intention to pick up money. Oh, so they mustn't have actually stayed all the way. They must have just took them to the bus station, which still is very nice. So they hitchhiked to Wichita Falls with the intention to pick up money that was supposedly being mailed to him from Jack Smart, because apparently Jack Smart was going to for the work he had been doing on places in the old town. When he moved to Granny Rich's, Jack was going to post some money to him for that work. Before all this shit went down. But obviously, Henry went to retrieve the money from the post office, and Jack had either not sent it or had requested it back, maybe from the post office. Which you can't really blame him at that point.
No, you can't. No,
done enough for that guy. Henry and Frida were once again poor, hungry, and hitchhiking until they finally got picked up by another generous man named Reuben Moore. Reuben was a preacher from a nearby town called Stoneburg who told them he was part of a religious community. This Stoneburg place is literally like a stone's throw, no pun intended, literally like a stone's throw away from the other place. It's not too far.
Right, okay.
In reality, this religious community, though, was nothing more than a converted chicken coop and a few small shacks on a rundown ranch. So he was a nice guy, but he was a bit deluded as to his religious community and what it really was. Wasn't that great.